everyone, my name is Solib and this is Games Now. Games Now is an open lecture series on game development run by Aalto University. During this COVID-19 virus pandemic, the Games Now will be safely offered in social distancing mode here in our Twitch channel. Our main host, Anna-Kaisa Kultima, is currently on her parental leave and you will see her coming back in next spring starting from January. Anyone can join Games Now online and leave comments and questions on our chat. The lecture video will also be later shared on our YouTube channel. If you want to take full advantage of what we offer, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also find more information about our upcoming lectures in our official website at gamesnow.aalto.fi. Okay, so now let's get started. Today we will talk about exergames, video games that are also a form of exercise. The game in and with motions, mostly of one of those. So our panels are also quite multidisciplinary. They are both researchers, game creators, and most of all, entrepreneurs. So let me quickly introduce them one by one. First, Anna-Lisa Martin Niedecken is CEO and co-founder of Jülich-based startup Spurly, as well as a senior research at Jülich University of Arts. With her background in sports science, her expertise in game research and in esports, Anna has been researching and shaping the digital future of sports for more than 10 years. And next is Stefan Niedecken, who is CFO and co-founder of Spurly. He's a startup enthusiast, entrepreneur, and number of cruncher who is working in the field of mixed reality sports for almost 10 years. With the foundation of Spurly in March 2018, he has become, to quote, finally able to combine two favorite leisure time activities, sports and gaming, into one. Next is Perttu Hamalainen, is a professor of computer games here at Aalto University. His research interests are exer-game design and gameplay innovation through emerging technologies. And last but not least, Raine Kajastila is CEO and founder of Ballomotion. He has received PhD from Aalto and founded two companies from his PhD research. His postdoctoral research concentrated on augmented exercise and sports training environments. Raine's and Perttu's exer-game project, the Augmented Climbing Wall, turned into Ballomotion in 2016. And you might have also seen this game because Ballomotion received worldwide attention with their viral video, which had more than 200 million views. So that was the introduction of our panelists. And without further ado, let's go straight into their presentation. Let's get started.
So I think it was my turn first. So happy to be here talking to you guys. And I thought I'll give you a brief introduction of what Ballomotion is, what our products are, and also just to give a brief history where Ballomotion was founded. But first, I'll talk a bit about the problem. And the problem nowadays is that people don't move enough. It's like a pandemic that people don't move enough in the world. And also you might feel that when you go exercising, you might need an extra push to go exercise. So you need something that, hey, I want my friends to come along or something else. But on the other side, games are really popular nowadays. They are hugely popular, and there's nothing wrong with the games themselves, but you tend to sit down while you play them. And also the games and the quality of these games is amazing nowadays. So people are used to consuming this great quality content in their homes with their mobile phones and anywhere where they go. But when they go to the locations like activity parks, trampoline parks, these activities are really analog. And we are changing this, that when you go out with our products, you'll experience really high quality entertainment and fun. So with our games. And you might have seen Climb, our first product, which was launched in 2016. And it's a climbing wall, and our technology with projectors and also body tracking, we turn it basically a huge touchscreen that you can climb on with different kind of games that you can play with your friends or alone. And I'll show you a short video what's it about. And this is from our customer locations from France called Mad Monkey. So what you saw there is a place that people go out have fun with their friends to exercise and play games. So what would be better? And that was our first product. And 2018, we launched Jump. And it's the same, but completely different thing for trampolines. So here you're on a trampoline and you're playing a game. And we take you and we put you into a game and you become a superhero, like a Super Mario Bros. In a game world. And you can experience different types of games. And this also, it's better me to show a video, what it's all about. And this is our latest video and for latest game, Jump Ball. It's a 2-player game that you play with 2 different trampolines, and both are put in the same game world to play this kind of extreme ball game. So this is something like a extreme tournament type of game that can be enjoyed like really good trampoline jumpers like you saw in the video, but it's also really good for kids. Like my kids, we were playing this on Friday for several hours, and it works for them. It works for really good players and also good for events. And these are products, and I would tell a bit about the history. How did we end up here? And this all started in 2013 when I joined Perttu's game research group at Aalto. Perttu had already bought a trampoline there, and when I came over, I also realized that the technology that we were using would be ideal for climbing, which I had been a sport I've been doing for 15 years back then. And we did research on other sports also, but the climbing got, our first research papers on the climbing got really interest around the world. And even climbing gym owners reached us and said that, hey, this is really great, you should make it as a product. And we continued developing that and also made a prototype that could be run on a local climbing gym here in Helsinki. And at the same time, we were able to get funding for commercializing this prototype, which you see here now. And we got then this kind of internal inside university research project that was aiming to commercialize this prototype for 1 year around 6 persons. And within this project, it culminated into us going to a huge trade show in Germany called Outdoor Show and showing off what we had what we had done, and I actually made the prototypes to a product that we could sell. And this was something that we had already quite a lot of interest from some of the customers, and first doing the first sales, but then nothing could prepare what happened next. So the project was over, and we had founded the company. So a couple of months after that, we put a video to our Facebook. You might have seen this because on Friday we put this to our Facebook, and in the morning, Saturday, we had 1 million views. Over the weekend, 8 million views, and we stopped counting when we reached 200 million views. And then TV channels like Discovery Channel flew over to make a piece about this. So this really helped us go forward with the company, and we basically stopped development and just answered emails for 3 months after this video. Perttu might be telling a bit more about the research part, but I'll continue a bit about where this video got us. So where are we now? We are all around the world, and currently we have sold these to 60 different countries, over 600 systems sold in different continents, over 300 locations are using these. And which is even more important, that we having 45,000 players every day, or used to have before COVID. Now it's a bit less, but on the top days, that's the number, and that really makes a difference, that we are moving quite a lot of people every day. And the locations where we operate are activity parks like trampoline parks and family entertainment centers, fitness and climbing gyms, then sports entertainment locations and hotels. So that's where you can go and play our games. And I think I need to stop here because I give some room to others. But if you have any questions, please ask during the panel. Shoot me an email, and we're also hiring if you're interested of joining our company. Thank you. And I think I give room to Anna to go forward.
Thanks, Raine. So I'll start sharing my screen as well, and I hope you can see the slides. Perfect. Great. So yeah, first of all, thanks a lot for having us today. It's a great pleasure to be with you guys, because I told that more than once, at least to Raine. I used to be a big fangirl of yours and Perttu's work back in the days. So that's maybe why I'd like to start with a little bit of history first, similar to what Raine did. And then we'll also, of course, show you how or where that led us and what we are actually doing today. So as we already heard in the introduction, I have a background in sports science from the Technical University in Darmstadt. And that was pretty much the time when I started also to discover my passion for sports games, for Exergames, and for the R&D work of Raine and Perttu. And this led me in 2013 to continue this career at Zurich University of the Arts, where I'm ever since as a senior researcher in the subject area in game design. And this way also allowed me to dive even more deeper into the field of attractive and effective exergames. And when I say exergames, I would say I focus more on the fitness aspect rather than on a real sports. So that might be also one of the differences between what you already saw and heard by Raine. So when researching the existing literature and existing products on the market, what I always used to find was one gap in the middle. So we could see amazing products coming from the fitness sector, which all featured really cool evidence-based training concepts, but very often also lacked in a meaningful game design on top. And vice versa, we could always find cool gaming solutions from the exergame market, which worked really well in the game design aspect, but lacked in certain aspects of a good and holistic training concept. And that is where we found our gap. And this is also where I started doing some research back in the days. So in 2016, the first step was coming out of research to start with a pilot project where we set ourselves the goal to explore the concept of dual flow, which comes from exergame research. And we questioned ourselves, is it possible to make a cognitive and a physical flow measurable and experienceable in an exergame setting? And we developed a fitness game setting together with children. And this consisted once out of the different controller settings, which you can see here. So on the left side, you see the full body motion controller technique, which allowed for height and height adjusting. And on the other side, you see the Kinect sensor. So you could play the same game with different gaming technologies. And this allowed us to, for example, research very interesting questions regarding different technologies and their impact on the gaming and training experience, for instance. And what you can also see is that both controller settings could be played either alone as a single player version or in a co-located multiplayer scenario. And this was also very interesting because we could find out a lot about social and bodily interplay strategies in exergames at this point of time. And the last thing is that we experimented with sensor technologies. For example, we measured heart rate, which allowed us to adapt the virtual gaming scenario based on heart rate measurements and also based on in-game performance. So that was coming back to the fact of the dual flow I was talking about earlier. And yeah, back in the days, we showcased the prototype. I have to point that out, prototype, again and again at big fairs. And parents came over and asked us again and again, where can I buy it? And we always had to say, sorry, it's not for sale. But in 2018, it was then the time where we said, okay, we should take the next step and really make it official. And that is where we founded Spheri in March 2018. And from then on, we took all the knowledge we gained from the project in Plunder Planet and extended and expanded it with a bigger team. Again, we were an interdisciplinary team from sports science, game research, and game design. And I'll show you now how the very early stage Exercube looked like. So you can imagine it as a physical, immersive gaming environment where you can really step inside and will then performing your functional workout. But I'll show you a short video how it works. And I hope it's not too loud.
Where body and mind are totally balanced, you experience the dual flow. Enter the immersive world of the Exercube. Resulting from a research-based collaboration of sports scientists and game designers, the Exercube combines the best of fitness and gaming. With its holistic training approach, the playful workout increases your physical and cognitive skills. To maximize your fitness results, it adapts to your performance while you enjoy the most engaging and motivating experience. Beat your own high score or challenge your friends. Welcome to the playful future of fitness training. Go with the dual flow.
So yeah, this is how the scenario looks like. And since this was
where body and mind
since this was rather quick, I'd like to tell you a bit more about whilst I'm playing the next video. So you see here some more details. Simone is performing the functional workout in the Exercube. So she reacts to audio visual cues, which are provided to her by the game. And she has then to react with functional workout moves, like, for example, jumps, squats, punches, and of course, it's also from scalable intensity. So you can start from rather moderate intensity and scale it up to high intensity training. And yeah, so what we say is it's kind of a combination of both. It's a body and a brain workout in once. And again, Simone wears the heart rate sensor, so we can then adapt the game difficulty and also the complexity to her individual needs. So we have multiple application areas for the Exercube as it is. You can see some of them in here. So we sell it to gyms, for example, to rehabilitation, also to esports. So it's very diverse where we can apply it. And of course, we'll always stay very close connected to research. I just brought you one slide showing our current research partners, and there are many, many more who are doing great stuff with and around the Exercube, and that always helps us a lot to really identify new potentials for new iterations. For example, we have one paper which is already out there. You can have a look. It was at Chi 19. Then we have the newest one, which was featured in the Frontiers Journal. And of course, we are also doing some fun experiments with body sketching together with the colleagues from Uppsala University. And also this one is already out, Chi Play last year. And now over to Stefan with some more information regarding our sales channels.
Right, I have only a couple of slides more because, of course, the main part stays with Anna. So what you see here is that we not only sell the Cube to gyms, rehab centers, schools, etc. We also try to create new experience centers for everybody. It doesn't matter which physicality you have, which age you are in. It's for all of us, especially with the new e-commerce trend. Our downtown areas need new places where people can socialize, where people can meet up, and we believe that this is the perfect space they can do so. Next slide, please. I mean, you see here esports, it's becoming bigger and bigger. It's an absolute amazing trend which we can see. The athletes are treated like real sports pros. Nowadays, it's getting more and more physical. You see a couple of players here where they add movements to the virtual game worlds. And this is actually where we try to bring in the next step. We try to bring in new gaming concepts, new training experiences. So with the philosophy Anna told you in the beginning, to bring that esports trend to the next level by an exclusive combined with real training concepts, esports, physical esports trend or scenario. And here's the trailer, which you can see.
It's time to unite sports and gaming. Time for new legends to write their story. Together, we'll take physical esports to the next level. The fusion of unique skills will make the team succeed. Everybody can be the next champion. This is your time. Join the Exercube League.
Right, and as you can see, the industry, now we're talking about the fitness industry in particular, they actually gave us the FIBO Innovation Award in 2019 and 2020, which shows us that even the fitness industry is going into that direction, and which is quite good for us, or we at least, it's nice to see. It will take a little bit more time to really get them doing it, but it shows the trend and it shows that we are moving in the right direction. And we believe, we skip one slide as the time is running out. Maybe the last sentence from our side, we believe that the physical and active lifestyle should be fun and accessible for everybody. And that's our main vision, and that's what we work on. Thank you.
And with that, we'd like to hand over to Perttu, I guess.
Right.
Perttu, you're muted at the moment.
Oh, thanks. So, hi. Awesome presentations. Hard to continue from here. Well, I thought I'd say some words about motivation and how I've been approaching it in research. This is kind of, we've been trying out various different approaches, and I'm now kind of highlighting one particular research stream that has been quite prevalent since I started doing this in 2001, so almost, well, actually 2000, so 20 years ago. So I kind of went through one from research to commercialization thing, joined the industry, then come back to the uni, and now I'm more kind of feeding these initial prototypes. And for instance, Palomotion was then something that I helped trying to kind of set it up. So my role is nowadays more of this kind of enabler, although of course there's some personal research projects going on too. So as researchers, we like to solve problems, and I'm especially motivated to solve this societal problem of exercise motivation. And here, one key concept that I also saw in the questions that we have got from the audience is the concept of intrinsic motivation. So basically, we can motivate people by giving rewards like salary raises and so on, but especially in sports and games, something that's perhaps more important is so-called intrinsic motivation. So this kind of inherent tendency to seek out novelty and challenges, to extend and exercise one's capacities to explore and learn. So, and in general, doing something for the sake of it, not because somebody tells you to do it. And psychological research has identified some key components of intrinsic motivation. And there's, for instance, prevalent theories like self-determination theory that posits 3 basic psychological needs for competence, autonomy, and social relatedness or social connection. And then there are other theories that highlight the importance of novelty, so interest towards anything that's new. And then as game designers, we try to kind of support those needs through game elements like story, aesthetics, mechanics, and technology. And I'm now going to show some examples of supporting competence. This is kind of something that I approached intuitively at first, and nowadays I've then kind of learned about intrinsic motivation and started to kind of understand why these things work. So that's one good explanation for that. So I think this clip is kind of summarizes really well what a game could and maybe should do an exergame. So basically creating this illusion that you are a superhero and you are doing great, even though you might still have a lot to learn, but we are motivated if we feel we are good at something. So how to create that illusion is a key. And the first time I think I succeeded in this was with Kick-Ass Kung Fu, which was part of my doctoral research way back before Kinect, before we, so kind of early exergaming installation, this kind of performance/game. This is from Kiasma Theater, so the Museum of Contemporary Art Theater in Helsinki. Let's take a look at the video. So you get the idea. The kind of central concept here is this empowerment of movement. I didn't yet know the intrinsic motivation theory, so I didn't talk about competence. I talked about empowerment. So kind of creating these superhero experiences. And in this game, we, for instance, created some innovated some new technical means to do that. And it had features like this one. So kind of going over the top with the exaggeration and all. And then there was also crazy weapons, also some examples of that later. But after Kick-Ass Kung Fu, I joined a game company called Virtual Air Guitar Company that was developing a virtual air guitar game. That never came out, but then we made 2 Kung Fu games that kind of continue on that research.
That looks extremely ridiculous. I want it. Kung Fu Live. Enjoyably ridiculous. Hard game to stop playing once you feel the impact.
So I'm not going to show you the whole trailer, but that's basically, it's like Kick-Ass Kung Fu, but we had much more advanced computer vision. This was for the PlayStation Eye camera in 2010. Although in the end that we sold something like 100,000 copies, which was really well for a PlayStation Eye camera game. But on the other hand, Kinect came out at the same time with Xbox. So that was kind of hard competition situation, and the game is not like super famous. But I'm really happy how it turned out. And then after Virtual Air Guitar Company, I joined Aalto, so back to the academic world, and tried to take this empowerment further. So one of the things, like Ryan said, I bought a trampoline and started investigating how can we empower movement, both with digital means like the exaggerated game physics, like in Kick-Ass Kung Fu and Kung Fu Live, and then also physical means like a real trampoline. And we created some game prototypes, published some papers, but then this kind of was, we didn't get any funding for it to continue. But fortunately, Valomotion has been able to take that further now. But of course, in addition to jumping and running, you can empower other abilities. Basically, I think one should try to digitally boost anything that a player cannot develop fast enough in real life, because that kind of sense that you are not making progress, that's demotivating. So it makes sense to try to boost these things that develop slowly in real life, like strength and flexibility are 2 main things. So Kick-Ass Kung Fu was about strength. Then we had this research project about flexibility. So this is an HTC Vive virtual reality setup with extra trackers. So there's a tracker at the hip and then leg trackers, and then we have an adjustable kind of hip flexibility ratio. And we made some user study where we kind of manipulated that and had some kicking tasks for the participants, both in first person and third person view and so on. You can read more about the paper, but in the paper, but that was surprisingly successful. So it seems that this can really give positive play experiences, and also people find it more natural. So kind of the right amount of boosting makes people feel the movement is more natural. That was one of the key takeaways there. And as a last example of empowerment, I'm going to show this short clip of a VR project that we published this year in KaiPlay. So this kind of movement manipulation is a bit challenging in virtual reality because it can easily cause simulator sickness. Basically, whenever your camera view in virtual reality moves at all differently than your real head movement, that kind of causes so-called visual vestibular conflict. So your body and vision tell different things, and that's nauseating easily. So you get motion sickness. And in this study, we propose an approach for combining natural and agile full body movements and navigating large spaces with no simulator sickness. And these 3 things have been basically impossible to combine in virtual reality before. So this is kind of novel third-person camera setup.
3PPR is a novel virtual reality display and interaction technique. The core idea is that a third-person miniature world floats in the air in front of the user. When the user turns, the display orbits around the user. To minimize simulator sickness, we also include a static first-person reference world. 3PPR allows the user to turn around without losing sight of the third-person avatar. The strength of a third-person view is that the avatar's movements can be manipulated without simulator sickness.
All right, I've taken something like 5 minutes, and I guess that's enough. I have material about another intrinsic motivation, that's curiosity and novelty. But for instance, trying to go beyond this usual setup of that was Kinect games, like standing in front of the television, because that's really kind of limiting for your movements. So we are motivated and interested in things that are new and also new bodily sensations. So I'd like to develop games that give us diverse movements, elicit as diverse movements and as diverse bodily sensations as possible. So from that point of view, kind of non-standing movement, the augmented climbing is also a good example. But I'm stopping now and so that we get to the questions part.
Okay, thank you very much. That was awesome presentation and lots of video footages that definitely helps our students understand what is Exergame and what are the cases that are out there. I can already see that our chat are booming in with lots of questions. So because this is a panel discussion, I will bring up some of the questions and feel free to answer and discuss within our panels. So let's kind of start with the most top question that came out on our chat. People have been asking where they can play this type of extra games. Are there any places that are dedicated for playing this sort of game? Or there was also one question coming from Tump IH123 says, can you extra game outdoor as well? What do you think? Shall we start with Ryan? You're muted, by the way.
Unmuted now? Cool. So the question was that like where you can play this, so all around the world. But of course, because, for example, our products are quite big, so you need a climbing wall or you need a trampoline, so you need to go to an activity park. So we have quite many locations that in Finland you would say this kind of activity parks like Super Park or Hoplop, but then all.
We lost your sound, Ryan.
We lost your sound. Oops.
And
I think there's lag coming in. Oh no.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Now we can hear you.
What was the last part you heard?
Places in Helsinki where we can play extra games.
Yeah, yes. Okay. So in Helsinki, there's like Super Park or Hoplop that you can go and play these, but around the world, places like all the biggest trampoline park chains are perfect locations. So I believe that, like Perttu said, that when you go, you try to play this kind of games home. There's not enough room. You don't have the space. You don't have the clean air. So if you go to the fitness gyms or then these kind of places that are made for moving, and when you go there, you have the already the gear that you wants to make you move. Those are perfect locations to do these kind of things.
I could add that right now, I think for homes and for like social distancing, the best you can buy right now, in my opinion, would be Oculus Quest 2 and Beat Saber.
I would totally agree. And I would also love to add that besides gyms and climbing institutions where you can go, it's also great because that was also asked, you can also go outside and play certain kinds of exer games. I mean, there are also cool solutions and products out there which allow you to turn the physical play space into an exer game play space, so to say. So it's really worth it to do some research and have a look which kind of products are out there. And many of them are really not depending on any kind of space. So
yeah, so of course there's things like Pokemon Go, but that's kind of limited to walking. But then there's now a new startup in Helsinki. If you are based in Helsinki, check out, or Tampere in Finland, also cityspotting.fi. That's a kind of like Pokemon Go, but you go to locations marked on the game's map, and then it gives you exercise kind of challenges. And they are not just about walking. They might be, for instance, climbing on top of some obstacle or jumping on some rocks in the seaside or something like that. So it's a kind of getting to know your city and then bit of exercise challenges. So I think that's worth checking out.
Yeah, and I really hope that there will be more and more these kind of things. And I think Pokemon helped there, that people are realizing this kind of potential it has, that you can just grab your phone and go out and have move and have fun. So I'm hoping that this will, in the future, you'll see more and more of this kind of really easy access exergaming.
I also kind of noticed that our panels have briefly discussed about what's going on these days. So we mentioned about going to a gym is not very recommended in these days. So what's your opinion about this impact of COVID-19, this pandemic, to this exergame? Any changes in the market potentials of exergaming?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I can jump in here, we see it's getting more and more connected. So we see that the fitness market is looking for solutions where you can transit your training to an at-home place or to an outside place, and they try to find new solutions with apps or whatever to actually connect those both worlds in a way that they don't lose their customers, so that the customer can actually do their training at home, and then as soon as the pandemic is pandemic, sorry, is over, they can actually take their progress into the gym and start over again with based on their results. So it's getting more and more connected, and I think a lot of new solutions are popping up, and it's just the beginning, I believe.
Yeah, I also believe that this has now affected, and there's a lot of companies rushing into the home market, but still, I think at least hopefully this goes away in the future, and I think still people want to get together and they want to be social together and play the games together. So you can do that online, of course, but it's not the same as when you can join with a group of people and normally you go to play basketball, but you could go and play this kind of exergaming on site also.
Right. In that case, let's kind of move on to this immersiveness of exergames that have been presented during this presentation. A lot of the videos that you've showcased are somewhat called mixed reality. So it's reality and virtual mixed up together. Why is that so? What's so much benefit about this mixed reality approach in your exergames? Let's kind of start with Exercube, maybe. Anna?
If you allow me, Perttu, is it fine? Okay, cool. Yeah, so we really say that mixed reality holds certain benefits compared to VR, for example, because it really allows you to dive into another world, but also stay with yourself and your body, which is very important if we think about efficient and qualitatively high training concepts, where it is very important that you move accurately and take care of your joints and so on, especially when we think about HIIT training, which is very intense and pushing you to your limits. So that's why we say mixed reality really holds much more potential compared to VR, at least in our case. So I would say that's one of the main topics. And also it's very cool when it comes to social interaction, because Raini just said, it's cool to compete virtually or to cooperate virtually, but it's even cooler if you can stay side by side and compete against or cooperate with each other in the same space and really experience yourself as an important aspect of the whole exergame experience.
Yeah, maybe I could add also like practical considerations that if basically there's no so much entertainment opportunities that compete for people's time, that kind of minimizing the startup friction and kind of making the onboarding, so first-time user experience as smooth as possible. These things matter a lot. And whenever you have something you have to put on before you can play, that kind of increases kind of substantial amount of friction there and also makes it difficult to switch players. And whenever I've tried these things, they always kind of perform worse than something that you can just jump into the play area and start moving and interacting. So from a business point of view, it also makes sense to minimize that friction.
Yeah, I agree completely with Perttu there that that's a key part, how to make it, but also thinking of exercising, and currently, for example, with the VR classes, so you can't really like do a heavy exercise with something on your face, or if a longer term they're gonna like start to get sweaty, and especially current this pandemic, it's something that if you're sharing the mask with somebody else, like you need to constant cleaning and personnel on site to do that, and it's just much more easier if you have something that you just go in and it just works and you come out.
And maybe it's also much more inviting if we think about big installments where you can see what's going on. It's much more attracting if you can see what is happening and you get inspired to try it yourself than if you see somebody wearing a VR helmet and you don't know what's going on, so because you cannot see through the glasses. So that might be another important aspect.
I guess this discussion is kind of going to this attractiveness of exergames and the accessibility of exergame. Clearly seems like this mixed reality feature gives the people to be more attracted to the exergame experience, but also more of accessibility. But in terms of accessibility, we're also getting a lot of questions from our viewers about accessibility as in business, as in how much does this equipment will cost? Will people be able to have these devices, this experience accessible in their home? Would there be a business opportunity too stiff for certain people? That was actually coming quite a lot on this chat. Maybe we can kind of a little bit discuss about this business potential of this. Can we go on?
Yeah. Can the startup folks tell some numbers?
Well, I think, of course, at least ours and Spheri's products are aimed at more to companies, and also the quality is built in a way that they just like some of our customers, for example, depend on them working 24/7 all the time. So the quality needs to be there. I think for home use, it's much more bigger market, of course, but the problem is quite often there that in the home use, people might not be wanting to pay really huge sums. So even for thinking of making an iPad game, that's €2, and it makes quite a lot of effort to do it, and then also include hardware that you would enable something like that in a home. But I still feel that it's definitely possible to do a home version, and I think there's like for fitness, there's like Peloton coming over. There's something for the bikes also, and those are accessible, especially for those who want really to train effectively at home.
So we are currently also exploring how we can really transfer the Exercube into an at-home environment, which is not that easy because, I mean, you saw that it's a big cube. And we don't want to have the scenario like Perto said, where you stand in front of a screen. It should be something else, but still it's important to to make it effective and accessible at the same time. And we are, for example, experimenting with some technology which goes more into the direction of a suit, kind of. And yeah, it's very interesting. We are just at the beginning of it, but it's kind of promising, I would say, to put some effort into new kind of concepts which might be suitable for the at-home market as well. Even so, it's currently the best time to do so because we are still all locked at home.
Yeah, I may continue a bit. So I was just checking that some numbers. So first of all, I know that, for instance, Valomotion is very highly profitable business. So scaling this to home is not necessary for you to be a kind of good business. But if you want to go to homes, I think there are three kind of trends at least emerging right now. So one is this kind of mobile apps, which are usually subscription-based. So you kind of purchase a personal trainer app that you pay for like 10 euros per month or something like that. And of course, that's fairly good revenue source for the app developer. And there, the key enabling technology is deep learning, because then now the mobile phones have enough neural network processing capacity to do body tracking really well. And for instance, one of the startups in this space is Onyx, so ONYX, from Peter Abiel's world-leading computer vision and robotics lab in Berkeley. So that's one of the ones. And then another thing that's now gaining hype is indoor cycling, like Raine also mentioned. I just checked Zwift, which is a company who's doing this basically bike training app. So they have simulations of like Tour de France and things, and you can log in and drive with your avatar, and the app is kind of getting the pedaling info from a bike trainer. So there are now these bike trainers that you remove the back wheel of your bike and mount it on the trainer that provides you kind of resistance. And Zwift just recently got 450 million investment. So that's for that kind of what looks like a simple app. That's fairly a large sum of money. So there's, at least these investors are believing that there's big potential. So yeah, this mobile app, body tracking, indoor bicycling, and also probably treadmills and stuff, which can all control same app. And then it's the virtual reality, because in virtual reality with wireless headsets like Oculus Quest, you now have full freedom of movement. They are tracking your head and hands very accurately, not yet the feet though. And with that headset, you get full immersion. So the graphics are also getting really good. So I think Beat Saber is not popular for nothing. It's an awesome game. And maybe there can be combination of these three things. But at least I think these are all viable right now.
In that case, just one more quick question about what is the most widely accepted business model of exergaming companies right now? Can you give us some of the examples? So right now in mobile games, free to play, monetization is a huge thing. Do you think that could work in exergames, subscription based?
Yes, definitely. Exergaming's like if you go with the app like Pokemon, that's a free to play already in a way. So definitely there. I don't know, Exergaming and business models. I think these like companies like us, there's not that many where like, let's say, paving the way of what works. We're exploring what works in a way. So for us, it's of course, we're manufacturing our own devices, building them, and then making them so that we can ship them other side of the world, and they plug it in and it works. And we have all the like infrastructure to support them remotely and all that in a way built in. So it's kind of extensive way to do it, of course. And there's like a monthly subscription to do it also, that you get the new games and service and whatnot type of thing. But I feel that when let's say you can do something with bit smaller scale, like with the smaller Exergaming with the smaller devices or whatnot, I think then definitely free to play is something that would work in there. No worries there.
Mm-hmm.
And at least in Beat Saber, it's kind of natural that you have content packs when they release new songs. That's a kind of continuous revenue stream for the company, because of course you like to buy those songs.
Yeah, and also I think interesting stuff is that the Beat Saber also went, like people are playing at homes, but then there's also devices for, like when you go to this kind of active entertainment centers, there's this kind of arcade machines that you can go and play Beat Saber for those who can't afford to buy one home, or that's also a way to do it. So you go in and put a coin in and you can play it also. So that works also.
We see a great potential in the combination of hardware sale, which is, for example, in our case, it's the cube. In the motion case, it's, for example, the climbing wall, and all the software solutions you offer. That could be also an app in the future. In our case, for example, we're going to launch a new app in February. So this will be totally free at the beginning, but we will add content over time. So at a certain point, you, of course, can purchase this extra content for the app, but also we have an SDK, so a software development kit for universities we offer. So the games, the development kit, the app, you can create tons of revenue streams for that software, you know. So this, I think, we believe it's really attractive. And it's good for the customers as well, because they decide on the content they want, and they never get an outdated product. So they up to date all the time, even in the future.
And let's kind of also move again to the topic of designing the games, designing the Exergame part. We've talked quite a lot about technology and business here, but what are the unique specific design structure that we need to consider when developing this type of Exergame? Let's kind of start with the discussions of that. One of the most commonly known Exergame is probably games for rehabilitations. So serious games that are meant for people with physical difficulties to exercise. And there's also Exergames for physically well-being people. So when you design your Exergames, how do you differentiate these target groups and implement that to your design decisions? How many times do you guys play test, for example?
A lot.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anna.
So yeah, actually, it's kind of the same. It doesn't matter if we develop for the rehabilitation sector or for the fitness sector. What we always do is that we keep in mind that we have a primary target audience and a secondary or maybe a third party target audience. So we really figured out that it's worth it to have them included into the design process from the very beginning, which means that it's good to really have some ideas and some concepts which come from, and that's the next important part, from the interdisciplinary team. So when we talk about Exergames, I think it's always very important to have both on board people who know what they are talking about when we say training concept or rehabilitation or therapy concept. And we have on board the game designers who know how to transfer certain aspects into the gaming world. And if we wanted to take it to the next level, we will also have some psychologists on board to really know what it makes in the combination, in the meaningful design process. And yeah, normally we really start from the scratch. We have some mock-ups where we find out about the styles and the audiovisual aesthetics on the one hand, and on the other hand, we'll have very early stage box prototypes in Unity, for example, where we can then also observe people interacting with this kind of movement scenario and really figure out what works and what doesn't work. And then we'll be iterating again and again, testing again and again, and always learn from what we observe or what we can measure or what we can ask people and bring it back into the further design.
Yeah, sounds really familiar what we are doing also, and I think the key part also is quite often the like where you aim with the quality of the game or product that you're creating. And I think it's really important to aim high in a way that when you create something in mind that it works for really good athletes, it works for adults, you can always scale it down to also to kids. So, and I feel it's really important that we can create things that work both like in a wide variety. Of course, it also causes some problems that designing the game that way that it can be played with a 5-year-old and then with the adult. But I think that's a really in a way a good challenge to solve, because a lot of especially the locations that our customers go to, they are both like adults are having fun with kids and so forth. So that is really important. And for us, it's also the like anything, of course, starts with like anything what we are developing is, well, first we have now we have, for example, sports climbing or trampoline jumping, and we need to find the core mechanics that work in the games. And it's something that you can't create same thing for a trampoline that would work, for example, on a climbing wall or even on the floor, but you need to know how this specific interaction works. And then, of course, creating different types of games and game mechanics for it. So finding a core mechanic, and we don't want to create, let's say, 10 different games with the same core mechanic, but always find a new core thing that teaches you something new about climbing or teaches you something new about trampoline jumping, and it's a completely new way of you experiencing it. So that's also gives you variety and you to learn how to move more and with these games.
I like the points you said, Raini. And what we also love to do to figure out about the core mechanics is really putting out our early stage prototypes into the field and just observe people, how they interact without any kind of big instructions. And that very often led to big aha moments for us, and also was very inspiring.
Yeah. And I think even before you put them out, I think like at least us, it's me trying and my kids trying, or somebody in our teams and their kids trying, and then if it works for both, it's awesome. Like and designing that way, and then when it goes forward, then we can invite more people in to try it out.
Yeah, if everything works fine, that's always great. But can you kind of, if that's okay for you guys can share some stories about whether your hypothesis, your assumption goes totally wrong in certain playtests? Because I once made Exergame at school project once, and there we were expecting our players to interact seamlessly, but the end up result was people were just stunned, not doing anything. They weren't sure how to play the game. That build-up was a total failure. And of course, we learn from there. But any kind of this type of experience that you also experience in the daily time, and any tips, Berto?
Yeah, one thing that's coming up again and again, like came up in my early work and then seen that same in others. So it's very easy to make a mistake, for instance, to design for one player and then trust that people will manage that, especially if you kind of design for some kind of public place. It's bound to be something like all 5 players rush in and try to play the game at the same time. They don't kind of realize that it would be for one person. So, and that's I think one of the big challenges with, for instance, the augmented climbing wall. But it also happened earlier in my personal projects. Yeah, go on, Rainer.
Yeah, I can pitch into the climbing wall, and I like Bertu said that like when we put the first systems out there and people go to play, they just find all the ways to cheat. So if there's a timer that you go from start to stop and there's a time, then they'll figure out that, hey, well, I go and push start and the other one goes to push stop. and you get like 1 second time in a level that you can do in 20 seconds, for example. So that will happen right away, in a way. And of course, we built things that would prevent these kind of things. So these kind of things, of course, happen. So
cheating is possible.
Yeah.
In Exergames.
Yeah, if you allow it, and of course it's always a delicate balance of creating something that, if you're really strict, if we would make a really strict game that you would not allow you to be like just come from the climbing wall back down and come back again, that it would maybe become too frustrating on a lot of locations. But then again, some climbing gyms, they really want you, like the games work in a really strict way that you don't even touch your feet on a floor. So it's kind of balance also where you want to have this Exergame. Is it going to be like a really nice fun for kids at the same time, or really like a competitive thing with in a climbing gym?
Does the follow climb comes in like custom setting as well? Does the board always the standardly same, or do you customize it per location? How does this work? And also this kind of similar question to Exercube as well. Like, do you guys customize per client?
Well, not really customized. The wall can be at different sizes. It can have different size. Of course, if you go too small, the games won't work because you're not moving anymore. But in a way, like you can have any hold set. It like scans the wall and recognize the holds, and the game will work in any location basically. But then we are also, like most of the locations we are selling the wall with our partners is that the wall is only 3 meters high, that then it's not too high for people that haven't been, for example, climbing before. And so it's safe to jump down, safe to climb down and so forth. But then on the places like climbing gyms, we can go much higher, and it's more, let's say, then of course it makes sense to have higher, the same height of gaming areas that you would have on a normal bouldering, for example.
Yeah, and for the cube, it's kind of standardized. So we always have the same cube anywhere, but you might have seen that it's not a real cube like a square. It's more like a trapeze, which allows us to make it accessible for people which might be a bit smaller. So kids, for example, and bigger ones as well. So it depends on where you're playing. So we are actually customizing a lot with our software, so to say. So the hardware is very stable. And then, of course, we have some features. For example, you can choose your own customized walls, which you can put on the outside of the cube. So there you can decide whether you want to have the Swiss mountains or maybe something else. Yeah, that is the only thing we really customized. And of course, then in the inside of the cube, you can choose which kind of game you will have. So, I mean, we just saw the Sphere Eraser, but of course there will be many more.
And maybe to add, you can also, for example, if you think of a retail chain, and you want to integrate it in the store concept, you could actually put the clothing aside and all that stuff, that it really, can be used as a video player, as a training ground to attract people, but at the same time, it really adapts to the store concept in a way, that you don't lose space, and it still, fulfills its promises. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, kind of there's also a burning question came from the chat. Jenny Hissa, I think this question is strictly pointed at you, Berto, asking how does the study of intrinsic motivation differs in Exergames compared to so-called traditional games? Because obviously this added up like exercise activities, motions in the games. So does that kind of makes it different compared to?
My child came to distract me, right? But if I got the question right, so how does intrinsic motivation differ in Exergames and other games? Not so much. So at least the kind of basic intrinsic motivation theories, like theories of curiosity, self-determination theory, they have been found to apply across a range of kind of domains like education, learning. So learning, sports, games, physical activity, motivation. But of course, the ways you support them are a bit different when you need to consider the body. For example, if we think of supporting the feeling of competence, that's much more delicate when you have your body in the play, because basically predicting the difficulty of a game as a designer, kind of understanding how difficult will this be to my players, that's much harder in Exergames, I would say, because if we consider what does difficulty emerge from, so it's like things like reaction time, there's like cognitive challenges, like amount of choices, puzzles. That's not so different in except if you have to solve those puzzles in the space with your body, and people have different body awareness, for instance. So this kind of spatial perception differs a lot. Then reaction time is one thing that is really kind of delicate, because if you only have a gamepad and you kind of see something, it's really fast to react once you know the buttons. But then every person has a different body, and some bodies have a lot of inertia, or some people are not as good in coordination. So that kind of adds this randomness to the gameplay that's really hard to deal with. So I've made mistakes in, for example, designing the balance progression, the difficulty progression of levels. So I thought it's going nicely up, but then in second level, there was a huge peak because people just didn't react fast enough because they weren't as sporty as me, for instance. So it's easy to get these things wrong. And yeah, so that goes to the competence. So if your difficulty curve is off, then people feel that like they suck, and then they are not motivated.
That was more about the player's part. Now I'm kind of getting curious about what are the roles of the observers. There are obviously people looking at someone playing Exergame, especially in like Valo Climb, for example. I never tried it myself, but I was watching and I was cheering at some point. Were there any studies about this role of spectators, observers, cheering? They actually make something different? Any playtest session that you would like to share with us that went quite interesting?
Well, we haven't done like actual research about it, like how the audience affects, but we have right from the beginning realized that it's really important. Like it's, well, of course, like if you play alone, like just alone with the game, it's fun. If you add a player there, one second player there, it's even more fun. And then when you have the audience, especially with Valo Climb, it's something that like it affects because they can warn you about, hey, now it's coming from the left, now it's coming from the right, right, look out. So it gives you into the mood, of course, for the players, and also it gives something that it's not just boring for the watch, and you're like, there's also something for you to wait your turn to do it. And the same, completely the same thing with ValoChamp. When we installed the first 2-player games to a park, and the park owners were amazed about how it created a community around these 2 trampolines. So there's 2 players playing, but there's like 10 people in a crowd cheering, and then there's like hot swapping the players. When somebody ends, then the next one just goes in, and it's just like the tournament just goes on and on and on. And that's definitely something that we want to create also in a way that's something that if it that happens organically in the parks. And I believe that there's something that we want to in the future create events like this, and that's also our plans. Like Sverige has their esport. So I think active esport is something that it's coming from there. It's coming soon in the future, and hope we can affect that people are not only watching sports on TV or watching esports on YouTube, but actually them going and participating of these kind of tournaments, and watching these kind of tournaments also then afterwards.
So esports might also happen in Exergames. Any prospect, yes. Any cases that you want to share with us already? Or are you trying
I think Anna wants to go after me, but we have been using our systems in a competitions, in climbing competitions, in a real climbing competition environment. So that like one of the climbing routes has been our system, and it's been a blast. It works. Everybody has a fun in a way. So it's really something that we are exploring and going forward. And we would have launch something like that and gone much further, but because of COVID, all the places are closed. We can't have like events. I think it needs the events that you can do this. We are currently doing just right now. There's a competition, for example, for jump ball that you just go in and by yourself or with your friend, you make a best video out of this competition. So you just can do that by yourself or with your friend, and you don't need to have the whole audience during this time. So, but when this, let's say, after the COVID, hopefully we can get into this kind of get more crowds in and more audience in.
Oh yeah, we actually wanted to do our first big tournament this year. So the teaser was only a teaser, unfortunately, because it would have been at the FIBO back in April. But yeah, as we all know, it was then postponed, and hopefully next year will be better. But what we did in the meantime is that we did at least, and it was still allowed in Switzerland before and after the lockdown, we did some smaller events at our showroom and headquarters, and that really worked out very well. So we had some time to explore also our own live streaming channel and to explore what's going on with viewers from outside. So like we are having the situation right now. It was really, really nice to see, and that also helped to start building our own small community, which will then hopefully help us next year, fingers crossed, to have some mobile cubes touring around through Germany and Switzerland, to have some pre-qualification tournaments before we'll then hopefully do the first bigger tournament. And of course, one of the next steps will also be to allow all the cubes which are already out there. So for example, one is at the 49ers gym in San Jose near San Francisco. It might be wonderful to play against Jerry Rice, right? So maybe we can arrange that in the future, and that would also be a big goal for the physical esports revolution, so to say.
And just a small add-on, just imagine if you now join forces and offer different disciplines of Exergames, like the wall climbing, from Valomotion, the Exercube, and there are coming more and more others which you can add as well and create a whole new kinds of sports, I would say.
Or Olympics, maybe, who knows?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, the Olympic of Exergames.
Yeah.
Right.
There are some extra games like our friends from Icarus. They have yearly competitions of like world competitions, and it's like I don't know if you know Icarus. It's like this kind of planking device, VR planking device. So you go onto this machine, and then you can you put the VR glasses on, and then you fly with the spacecraft, and you can compete on these tracks while planking and doing these kind of motions. And they actually had like a couple of weeks ago this year's World Championships on that. So, and they used to do that on site, but this year they made online. So people were connecting from UK and Germany and were not to compete. So it's happening. It's still, let's say, not as big as football, but hopefully in 2 years it's gonna be bigger than football.
They're having it for the 3rd year in a row, so it has been there for a while. So which shows it's growing. Of course, not that fast as we would like to, but we believe with our joint forces, it might get a little bit faster.
Can I add just a couple of remarks? So I've been thinking like what's holding these things back, or what's been holding back. I think it's been about technology, like Solid, like we talked before the stream, that Dance Dance Revolution and that's early dancing games kind of had a competitive scene. So they were already active of physical esports. The word didn't exist that time really. And why that was possible was that Dance Dance Revolution, for instance, the sensing system was so kind of simple and accurate. So it was possible to play competitively, because that abstracted play these buttons in rhythm. It was really easy to sense accurately. Then came things like Kinect, and Kinect tracking was always glitchy and random, and you really couldn't develop anything competitive because it was too random. If two players are really close in skill, you couldn't kind of say that the higher skilled player will win, because they might have some tracking glitch, and that would destroy the competition. But now with modern technologies and things like Sphere and augmented climbing and Icarus and this, the technology is advanced so well that I think competitive play is again possible. So
maybe another big point on this is, I guess also people are getting much more open-minded now. So that also took quite some time, because I mean, you all might agree if I say, at least when we were looking for third-party funds and were asking for money from outside to get our Exergame projects funded some years ago, it was always the same argument which came back, which was, no, people should go outside to do their sports. And this kind of shifted, I would say, definitely through the last couple of months, but also through the last years. And this is also something which is setting the base to get our companies ready to change something.
And I believe also that we need to have the locations where you can go and do this. So where of course still that people will find it doesn't, let's say it's not enough that you just have one competition a year. You need the location, that every city there's a place that you can go and do it in a way. So I think it's a bit time to go there, but I think with some let's say with some time we're gonna be there with this also. And I think there's a huge potential combining these two, like sports and esports, to a active esports. So for example, well, currently there's a trend also that you can see in F1 Formula, that there's real Formula drivers going to this esport Formula, and then there's like somebody coming from just the gaming and they're racing at the same game league. And even those who come from the game world, they might end up, or some have ended up as a practice, like drivers to this real Formula One places. So it's merged, that's merging already. And also, for example, drone flying. There's like these huge competitions of drone flying with $1 million prizes, that people go and fly these like really like small drones on a real place. But at the same time, the same controllers can be used to play the games at home, and you can practice that at home with your computer, and then maybe transition to be this really cool like big league flyer. So it like those are merging. So I think the same has to happen also with sports, and where you're active and doing exercise.
And you see a lot of parks or places where actually those things get combined. For example, we have one next door, close to Zurich. They have a functional workout gym environment on the ground floor, on the base floor. They have on the first floor they have sim racing, and now they ask us to put the Sphere Exercube on the second floor. So you have like 3 different approaches to sports, to movement, to a combination, to entertainment. And I think there's a big trend going in that direction, even with the standard places, standard gyms we know. So great future is lying ahead of us.
Yeah, I believe so too. And it's the well, I've said it before that it's the biggest TV programs that people watch is sports from TV. It's the football. It's all the sports. That's the major content on TV being watched. And then the major content currently on YouTube, on biggest YouTubers are esports players or a channel. So I see a really nice mix there in between with the active esports that we can attract people from the both sides, from that watchers from the traditional sports and also from like esports side. And then we're gonna have this in my mind in the future, we're gonna have these super athletes that's gonna play these mixed reality sports games in the future, and gonna be huge stars in the future. But let's see, is it in 1 year or 2 years? I don't know.
Do some betting now.
Yeah, hopefully faster than later.
Related to the Olympic joke that we just discussed, I have to share with you this one comment that came from our Twitch. Their Everside just commented, if Exergames make it to the Olympics before Jiu-Jitsu does, I'm going to cry. I mean, who knows?
But they are in the Olympics already, because Olympic Taekwondo is basically an exergame, because it has these sensor helmets and pads and a lot of like digital stuff going on and automatic scoring and all that.
That's also very true, yes. Oh, if you think of it that way, they already have the gadgets and the digital devices for the accuracy. Oh.
Yeah, I think fencing also has the same, has had a long time ago too.
Oh, so maybe adding like mixed reality wouldn't be much of a steep of entry. Surprisingly, maybe not.
Yeah, but I think Perttu had a really good point there in a way that it needs to be accurate. So if it's a random, then it doesn't allow competition. And well, some randomness is good for like anybody to enjoy and to get some, but it's not just poor skill, but in a way enable that is the accuracy of the tracking, for example, or accuracy of what they were creating. It's really important to create a meaningful competition.
And cheating, of course.
Yeah.
That's, by the way, one of the biggest problems Swift is facing, that you can cheat. It's the cycling system, and this makes it so hard for them to have real competitions like they just had during the COVID, I think in the early summer, because you can just cheat. The weight you put in, and there's a lot of factors you can tweak, and so competition gets really tough to measure.
I can also like confess myself, when I played Nintendo Wii, I like golfing, I never actually played the full swing myself. I usually just go a little tweak in the controller. You know, there's always a trick to do so. As a game developers, like how do you do you guys actually consider this while you design your Exergames?
Yes, we do, of course. And it's you really need to be very creative to be more creative than the people who play your games. So for instance, we had the situation where we had the scoring system, and you always would get a score if you go perfectly with the perfect timing to the wall and touch the obstacle, and that's it. And we recognized that something happened. So we wanted originally to have people coming back to the middle. So go, touch, and go back. And they always stayed with the wall. So they would play like, okay, I'm waiting for the next one. Okay, now I'll go. So it wasn't anything, but it wasn't real training. So we had to be creative with a scoring system and adapted it until, for example, they really went back and got another score if they made it on time back to the middle. So yeah, but you really need to be very creative and have to analyze and observe your customers and your players very well to learn from them.
Okay. In that case, also, what are the most anticipated technologies that you guys are waiting for? So we talked quite a lot about like considering Exergame as sort of a sport, more likely. We're discussing more about sports and exercise competition. And now let's kind of go back to technology side that will boost even more this type of awesomeness of esports. in Exergames. Any technologies that are you guys are waiting for, anticipating at the moment?
Well,
Sorry.
well, I can start in a way that of course partly in this kind of holy grail is like AR classes that will enable something that, so now you have VR classes that are big, but if you can have like this kind of classes that are as light as this, and you can then embed anything on your surrounding, that's something of course that enables a lot of things and a lot of possibilities, especially if the tracking of the surroundings is smooth and placing of virtual objects they actually stick to the exact position and they are hidden by the other objects and whatnot type of thing. So when you get there, it's definitely something that I'm waiting for, but it's still a bit far away.
If only Google Glass worked.
We climbed with it, we tried it, but didn't work.
Any awesome technologies that you might want to use in your next project?
Yeah, so maybe something, I don't know if there's something coming up like this, but if I could wish for, it would be amazing to have something which really allows you to measure not only physical parameters or cognitive parameters in real time to use them as an input for your game, but also emotional states. And I know that it is possible to measure emotional states, but as soon as you're starting to move yourself, it's kind of getting much more difficult to really get valid feedback and results. So therefore, it would be amazing to have something like that to make games even more customized and adjustable.
Yeah, and maybe one add-on is the whole tracking industry. It's still, you have good systems out there, but they all have their limitations somehow, and you have to make compromises at one point, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the new systems which come out. There's a lot of stuff going on, and to have this easy access, but at the same time high accuracy. I think there's some room for potential as well.
Yeah, from the empowerment perspective, I've been thinking like, okay, the trampoline experiment was really successful. So trampolines are cool. They give you superpowers. It's easy to combine it with camera-based games and so on. But what would be some other things that can empower your movement in real life? So I think all kind of exoskeleton technology can offer a lot there. So that's kind of coming up. Meanwhile, for instance, I participated in this kind of bungee, what's it called? Aerial bungee workshop. So basically, I've been kind of trying different harnesses that suspend you with a kind of elastic cord from the ceiling, so that you can it's kind of a trampoline, but more. So you can kind of do kind of all kind of interesting spins and flips in that, and so. But there's still a big problem, for instance, that the harnesses are really painful. So it looks really cool if somebody who is experienced with that kind of does it, because you can do this really slow motion, graceful aerial techniques. It's really beautiful, but it's super painful for the one who is doing it. And I hear this applies to many aerial acrobatics techniques. So if we can develop such kind of movement enabling technology that is also comfortable, that would be very interesting.
Yeah, I want to add to that partly that I think anything you create, the most important part is that, let's say the technology is hidden, that you don't really see it. Well, you see it, but it's a really natural way that you interact. That's the key part, I think, of creating anything or any new technology. What you're going to have is that you don't need to think about that, hey, now I'm connected to this technology and I'm doing this, but it's just like, it feels seamless and your let's say, it's like natural for you. But I think how to get there is like that you need tracking, like really good tracking, for example. So there's still latency and whatever you are creating there some latency and minimizing that and getting that really something that you when you touch something, you do something, it happens instantly in the game world. So you feel more and more immersed to the game with that. And of course, then I might mention the AR classes, so giving you input that is somehow that immerses you also. And I think still the hardest part is the tactile feedback and giving something that giving you something that let's say if you're doing something on poor air and you're touching a virtual object and your hand goes through it, it just breaks your immersion, and you don't like, it doesn't feel that you're actually in this game world, for example. But that's easy for us, for example, with the climbing wall, that it's something that it's a tangible, you hit the holes and when you whack the wall, there's something happens with the bat, so we can play around that. But I think that's the key part, is to make this whole feeling seamless, even with whichever technology you're using.
I think seamless is a good point, and also feasible or usable for a large or a wide range of customers and players, again, like you said before.
Yeah. And I think also adding to Perttu, like this kind of exaggeration, or I think it was last year, this like cool new product and really simple, like really simple exaggeration. So they combined this kind of e-bike with a kind of small go-kart type of thing, that you're a bike, but it's an e-bike, and it's easier to go faster and slide and whatnot type of thing. So it's again something that gives you a bit more, and it's more fun, and it's more to play around than you would have like a normal, I don't know, this kind of car that you would pedal around. But it's still an exercise, but you get extra boost. And I think there's coming that you could connect those to something that would become a Mario Kart racing, for example, that you go around with those, and then when you hit a object, then it slows down, and you could even spin them or whatnot type of thing. So I think something like that I see coming on in the future.
That's a really good example. Yeah.
Please don't do that to all those shared kickboards that are hovering around the street in Europe right now. Oh no.
Yeah. But there's actually something like that. I think in Netherlands they are thinking of also applying laws that, like for e-bikes, for example, that they'll slow you down when you're on a certain area, because e-bikes can go quite fast if and then there's a restriction that you can't go fast enough on this area. So if those things are built into the e-bikes already, you could build those things on a park with the same bikes, which would be awesome.
That could be a gamification of vehicles right there.
Yeah.
Like mobility. And then also kind of very interesting point what Perttu also mentioned about exoskeleton technology in there, because we also had some questions came from the students whether Exergames can focus more on like a very subtle movement exercise like yoga, and like quiet, because a lot of the examples we have right now are very like motion focused, speed and exercise kind of based. So do you think also this type of subtleness exercise can become also a future?
Yes, definitely there's some technological challenges there, but there have been like yoga games for Kinect, for instance. And I think there are, I mentioned this mobile phone-based body tracking apps. They also have some yoga exercises. The thing is that it's quite hard. So even though we can now track where the body joints are and so on, but it's really hard to see and understand what your like spinal alignment is, or these kind of internal details that are kind of totally hidden below the muscle and fat tissue. So that's something that still kind of seems to take an expert eye, and also giving feedback on that. In a yoga class, your teacher can touch you and say, relax this part, or kind of bend here, or kind of straighten here. And through the touch, it's easier to communicate that. So at least for teaching and learning purposes, that's quite limited in games if you only have screen-based feedback and camera-based sensing. But definitely I'd like to see that direction being developed, and there is probably a potential for innovation there.
Home fitness.
And huge business also for home use yoga, for example. I think currently it's just seeing some like going to a virtual yoga class with a virtual or real instructor, but then I think if something like what Perttu mentioned will happen, it would be awesome.
And it's also, if you look, for example, if you look at the gym equipment, and you see that even those professional tools, they don't work properly without a trainer sometimes, you know. So I mean, to add on a pro trainer who supports you doing your exercises right is a common case, and this could also, you could also think of for Exergames, you know, to add a professional to support you, to help you to overcome maybe barriers you might find. We don't always have to think of the perfect solution, because it's hard to find even for gym equipment, let's say.
Yeah, and I also think that it's not the technology that is currently maybe limiting these kind of things. It's more, let's say, the user interface design of how to like give this professional, how could this similar type of professional advice be given through a screen or audio or whatever type of thing. So it's more on a user interface than tracking or something like that.
And actually, I think we have to slowly wrap up because we're almost in time already. But before we close out, I kind of want to quickly give an opportunity for our panelists to explain and showcase one of the associations that recently started, the movement. So Mixed Reality Sports Association, XRS. So we've been discussing this briefly before the stream. So does anyone of our panel wants to introduce what this association is about and share some insights to this future game creators of if they want to get involved with this Exergame scene, which channels will be the best?
So maybe I'll start and then I'll pass on to Anna to talk about it. So we a couple months ago, we formed with 4 companies. One is Valomotion, one is Spheri, one is Fun with Balls, and one is Icarus, a joint effort of creating a mixed reality sports association. And the goal is to get together with these kind of companies who create a high quality mixed reality sports gaming, and also affect in a way to the industry that the right kind of elements are included in there, affect the standards, and also affect that like governmental and positions that hey, that this would be acceptable. So I think there's a long way that we need to really to tell different parties that hey, this should be like a next in the Olympics, for example. So that it's a tool that we come together with these companies and then let people join and other companies to join in here. And maybe Anna is the chairwoman in this. So I think if you want to add something here.
There's nearly nothing more to say, right? And that was a perfect summary. So we just started with it, and yeah, I guess it's a great thing we did there to really establish something very official and to really take care that there's more awareness about this topic, and we all are in line that it's really the right point of time to do so, and it's also the right point of time for us companies to do so, because we made the whole way until here and we have our experiences, we know what we are talking about and what our visions for the future are. And we are really happy, of course, to join forces with many more companies and people who share the same visions with us. And maybe I head over to Stefan, who can tell a bit more about how we want to do it, because then everybody said something.
Yeah, I mean, like you already said, not so much more to mention, but I mean, we just believe. I mean, we've been fighting for that for a long time, and we believe that together we are stronger. And that's more or less. And we have so much experience in that field, and we want to provide others with our mistakes we did. We want to set quality standards, like you already said, and just grow that market, which is getting there, but still a lot of industries are talking about it but not doing it. So we further need to create that market and create awareness of that market, and that's what we do, and it's making a lot of fun, and we're really happy to make that happen this year with the other 3 players, and we're looking forward to have a lot of new companies coming in, and also other people who are interested in the topic are more than welcome.
I think one thing to add would be website. If you want to go in, it's still building itself in a say, but xrs.international, and that would be the website. You would find more information and also forum to join in, and some cool video of different kinds of different companies who have already joined this association.
Great to know that this awesome initiative is coming up in European exer-game scene. I'm very looking forward to. And now our time is up. So that was our panel discussion. Thank you very much for all those people. Big applause for this awesome discussion. Unfortunately, Twitch doesn't offers clapping sound, but we're getting there. Hopefully our audiences are excited as much as we do. And this was very interesting topic and very concurrent, up-to-date topic. So thank you very much for sharing the knowledge. And I will quickly start with the closing mark for our audiences. So our panel discussions about exer-gaming has now ended. Our next Games Now lecture is scheduled next year at 25th of January. And it's going to be also a panel discussion. And details will be shared on our screen soon. And you can also check our official website for more information at gamesnow.aalto.fi. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for joining today. Don't forget to subscribe our social media channels and hit the like and subscribe button. My name is Solid Park, and this was Games Now. See you next year. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.